Welcome back, guys, to Ace Attorney Investigations 2, Prosecutors Gambit, where last episode, with evidence in the past now in the hands of Miles in the present, we deduced the body in the fountain was none other than Artie Frost or Paul Halik, before starting an investigation of the fountain room, having picked up various tidbits of info, including a picture drawn by Larry that holds even more clues. But before we continue on with that and go over to go, hey, are we deducing here like it told us to do? There's still one more person to speak to in the room. It is just Judy, who is bound to want to speak to us. 100%. Where were you before you rejoined us here, Miss Bound? I had to go and tell our visitors we're closed. Oh, and hand out a little something in apology. Was there something you wanted to talk to me about? Yes, a few things, actually. Not least of all, the fact that I think you might be the one who set the poison gas trap. The revenge, eh? The original ice sculptures melted 18 years ago, correct? How did you manage to recreate them? Oh, you know about what happened back then. In that case, you might also know I took pictures of them during the contest. I commissioned the creation of a set of replicas based on those photographs for this current exhibit. But why go through the trouble of creating replicas? Mr. Frost's Zodiac series was his great unfinished masterwork. I wanted to see it completed at last. Or rather, recompleted. It was my fault that the original set melted in the first place, after all. I see. And is there any particular reason why the winter and autumn wings look so similar? Oh my, you really think they look alike? Perhaps I used some of the decorations from one in the other by accident. She's clearly lying. But I don't have the evidence to prove it just yet. Oh, good talk. Big chat. I guess then we might click on this. Okay, we can deduce. And I'm assuming we are deducing just the tablecloth itself. Could this be related to the evidence somehow? Because of course, in the picture that we just received, it was very much a shade of blue. Let's put it that way. So that's what I think we're doing. Eureka! Larry, could I ask you something about your sketches? Fascinated by the work of the great Laurie Stoneham? It's the competition, right? Yeah, it's definitely the competition. Actually, I think you're a pretty good sketch artist. Man, that's just a sketch. Not exactly. This light blue tablecloth, you painted that exactly as you saw it, correct? I already told you. Everything is exactly as I saw it. But the tablecloth on the card here in this room is white. Wow. Your head's so full of crazy theories, the simple stuff just passes you right by, huh? What's that look for? Listen, just before I drew that sketch, I was in the middle of some business with a cart with a tea set on it, okay? What kind of business? That's right, it was the hiding the pieces of the teapot I smashed kind. That's nothing to boast about. Anyway, I was still in the middle of cleaning it all up when Judy came out of the winter wing. I didn't want to get busted for breaking the pot, so I quickly dove out of sight. Wait, Miss Bound came out of the winter wing? Yeah, she was pushing a cart. A different one. Why does it make her look all sinister as well with her smile? That's the one with the light blue tablecloth on it that I drew. And what did she do with this second serving cart? Well, I saw her wheel it into the summer wing, but I don't know what happened to it after that. When she came back out, she was pushing one of those other carts, the kind you can lift stuff with. A lift cart? Well, it might have been a lifted bit already. Yeah, so I called out to her, but she just ran off and left it behind. Never had her down as the shy type, but it just goes to show, you never know. Another serving cart, and a lift cart. Is there maybe another tea set too? We'd better check with Miss Bound. Well, we know there's another teapot. So we're just going to go ask you the question by the look of it. The two carts. Are there two serving carts here at the gallery, Miss Bound? Oh, yes. Why do you ask? A certain so-called artist showed us his sketch. I couldn't help but notice the color of the tablecloth. It's light blue. Light blue? I'm afraid your friend must be mistaken. I only use white tablecloths, freshly laundered and starched. Like the perfect wrinkle-free one on the cart here in the fountain room, right? Exactly. If I saw so much as a blemish, I would replace it right away. Could the colour of the tablecloth in the sketch simply be a mistake on Larry's part? Do you have any idea of what you might have been doing when the sketch was drawn? Let me see. I appear to be carrying out my usual duties. I'd like to ask you a little more about these duties, if I may. Your work. What exactly were you doing when the sketch was drawn? Because from what I can see, your cart doesn't have a tea set on it. I was delivering some chocolates to the investigating officers. You know, you could do that without a whole cart, right? Aw, now I'm jealous. I love chocolate. Well, there were a few left over, so here, for you both. I made them myself. I hope you like them. Woohoo! Haha, thanks, Miss Bound. Well, why not? They're a little melted, but I suppose that's because they've been sitting around in her pocket. Chocolates, handmade by Bound again, slightly melted after being kept in her pocket. They're super sweet. I love them. I'm very glad to hear it. They may not be the prettiest, but I'm grateful for the energy boost nonetheless. Though perhaps they could do with a little less sugar. Okay. We now have some chocolates in our possession. And we've now kind of examined pretty much everything. Except rooms that we would wish to go into. So, where do we continue to go with this investigation? To the logic pool, I guess. So we've got a minty fragrance. The tea smells different. And a switched teapot. I think... Which one first? The aroma's different for this morning. What's changed? A minty fragrance and the switched teapots. Is it this with this? Or this with this? Or this with this? I don't know. Well, a penalty's a penalty, so I might go with the switched teapots and the tea smells different as a reason, first of all. I suspect the difference in aroma we noticed is due to the teapots having been switched. Correct way round. You do? I can't see what else it could have been. The tea itself hadn't changed. Why didn't we ask Miss Bound, just to be sure? Miss Bound, the difference in aroma we noticed, do you think it could have been because of the different teapot? I suppose so. My cup just now had a subtle minty scent, rather like uva tea. Oh, I just remembered. I made some peppermint tea in that pot only yesterday. That must be where the minty aroma is coming from. Teapot's leftover aroma. A refreshing aroma because it's in a different teapot from this morning. Could that really be it? Well, teapot's leftover aroma and the minty fragrance, could those be linked now? I mean, it seems to be. The tea from the teapot Larry switched in from under the cart smelled faintly of mint. Right, Miss Bound said she used that pot to make peppermint tea yesterday. Yes, but there's something else that's been troubling me. Miss Bound seemed more taken aback by the switching of the teapots than the breaking of one. You're right, you'd expect it to be the other way around. I suspect she might have been deliberately hiding the teapot underneath the cart. But why? One of Ubiquitium's key characteristics is its minty fragrance. So what if she had been hiding some in that teapot? What? In the teapot? It's simply a possibility, but one worth investigating, I believe. Mr. Winner, any luck finding that Ubiquitium? Oh! My people are searching the entire gallery, but they haven't found anything yet. And what about you? Don't tell me you know where it came from. I may have an idea. I knew it! If I can't find it, there's no chance to use this. What? You do know where it came from? Yes. Where? Miss Bound's teapot. Wow! Nice piece. I like it. Yes, this looks like a fitting prize for a natural-born winner. It's not a prize. It's a vital piece of evidence. Oh, it's just evidence. Then I'll have one of the forensics people check it out. Mr. Edgeworth, is there some sort of problem with my teapot? Possibly. The minty fragrance we notice coming from it. I think it just might be the scent of one of the chemicals used to make the poison gas. But, Mr. Edgeworth, surely you don't think I had anything to do with that? I'm afraid I do. The method used to create the gas would have required considerable preparation. Nobody would have had the time or the opportunity to set that up except for you. That's not strictly true. It took around a week to get Zodiac Hall ready for the exhibition. There were all kinds of people coming and going through here during that time. Delicia, for one. So you see, I'm not the only person who could have set it up at all. The Scone is on our radar too, of course. You needn't worry about that. And besides, I wouldn't know the first thing about making poison gas. So even if you did find some ubiquitium in my teapot, I wouldn't have had any idea what to do with it. But I suppose we should see what the test results say first. Miss Bound claims she doesn't know the first thing about making poison gas. I need to find a way to prove that she's lying. I mean, it's a pure link to a company that does this stuff. Edgeworth speaking. Sir, it's me! Is everything alright, Detective? Everyone has left the winter wing. It's just me in here now. Which means I can tell you what we found out. You really shouldn't be sharing information about the investigation. But after the past week or so, I'm not about to stop him now. The exhibits in here have all completely melted. All that's left in the display cases is some stuff at the bottom. More of it in the Taurus case than in the Gemini case, though. Describe this stuff for me if you can. Yes, sir. It's like a pale blue liquid. I had the lab run some tests just now. The sample from the Taurus case just had a bunch of sugar in it. But the one from the Gemini case had 3 different substances in it. Which were sugar, salt, and blood. Blood? What are salt and blood doing in the Gemini case's sample? Can't imagine whose blood it could possibly be, but I'll get it tested right away, sir. Please do, Detective. Oh, I also spoke over the radio with a forensics guy working the fountain room. He said he just got word that the sugar they found in the fountain matches the sugar in the pale blue liquid. I see. That might well prove to be a significant development. Gemini case analysis results have been obtained. Anything else to report, Detective? Yes, sir. We found one of those light-emitting devices here in the winter wing, too. There were a few of those being used in the autumn wing to disguise it as a winter wing, as I recall. It seems that the equipment from 18 years ago is more than just for show. I need to talk to Miss Scone about this. Anyhow, I better be getting back to it. I'll let you know as soon as we hear from the lab about that blood. Yes, thank you, Detective. Was that Gummy? Seemed like he had a lot to say. He did, and all of it very useful. If I'm going to prove that Miss Bound's claim about who could have set up the poison gas trap are false, I'll need to talk to a certain somebody else who was here 18 years ago. Ooh, lots of people changed position. But as you see, they're not talkable to, apart from, of course, Delicia Scone. Though, of course, you are too. I could talk to you about Judy Bound, can I? Who can I talk to? I could talk to Delicia Scone some more. About what? Miss Scone, I'd like to ask you a few questions, if I may. Of course, dear. Fire away. Anything for you, Milesy Smilesy, and dear sweet little Tooth Decay. I'd appreciate it if that was the last time you called me Milesy Smilesy. I'm not a fan of Tooth Decay either. Well, you just have to like it or lump it. I can't change your nickname once I've settled on it. Well, I guess we tried. So what can you talk about? Gallery decorations and making poison gas. I think you're probably the last one to speak to, so I will speak to our buddy first about Judy Bound. Tell me, Fender, what kind of person is Miss Bound? Huh? Wait a minute. Don't tell me you've got a thing for him, Milester. I do not. Chill, I'm just yanking your chain. Anyway, what can I say about Jude? Well, she's a real brave trooper for one. What else do you call someone who waits around for 18 whole years like she has for Samson? Even after his extended family kicked her out of this place. What? They threw her out? Yep, Jude wasn't technically part of the family, so there was nothing she could do. She had nothing, nobody, and no job after Samson took the fall. Getting a lot of motive here. So she had no choice but to take what he taught her and make her own way in showbiz. She's retired from all that now, though. Yes, why did she retire? She'd finally made enough to buy the old place back. She even got the ultimate cookbook back from the Tangaroa group after they basically stole it. Bao recovered the house and the ultimate cookbook for Tangaroa's sake. Guess this place and everything to do with it was all she ever cared about. So she just wanted it back. All of it. Bender seems very sympathetic to Miss Bound's plight. But from a less charitable perspective, she has, in a way, taken everything of Mr. Tangaroa's for herself. The pessimist's way of looking things is probably the right way at this point in time. Everyone is a suspect. Including you, Cavell. That would get her off my case. Gallery decorations, Delicia. What can you tell us about the various devices used to decorate the gallery's exhibits? There seem to be some pretty specialized items in use. Light-emitting devices, luminous fabrics. Oh, I could tell you all about those, dearie. After all, I'm the one who gave them to Moody Judy. It was my way of saying sorry after I broke the rules all those years ago. I bought her 4 lovely new salt lamps, and I gave her the 4 pieces of luminous cloth I used for the contest. Wow, that's super generous of you. Well, us girls have to do our best, don't we? Not everybody understands, of course. That better not be a dig at me, Delish. I told you how kind I thought that was. Yes, back when you were a dear, sweet, innocent baby boy. What happened to you, eh? A dear, sweet, innocent baby boy? Mr. Fender? Can't quite picture that, I have to say. So these decorations, they're all the same as the ones you saw 18 years ago, correct? Yep, salt lamps, glowing fabric, light-emitting doodads, the whole bit. There were 4 luminous cloths in use in the autumn wing, but I'm sure I saw another one somewhere. I'm not lying. Oh, it's in my bag somewhere, I'm sure of it. What is she looking for? That's not it. And that's not it. That cloth looks familiar. Maybe I should jog her memory with something so Miss Scone will tell us more. Ooh. Maybe I'll ask making poison gas first then? Miss Scone, you're something of a specialist. How might someone learn to make the poison gas was used in the attack, Any ideas? Well, any pharmacist who's ever handled Infesticide Ultra would know for a start. After all, it says it's right there on the label. Do not mix with products containing ubiquium. Ever. Well, then anyone knows. It's not any pharmacist. But what about a layperson? It's unlikely they'd know, wouldn't you say? I suppose so, yes. Well, not unless they had a nose through the ultimate cookbook anyway. The prize from the contest 18 years ago. The recipe for making Infesticide Ultra, along with that not mixing with ubiquium bit, is in there, you know. So you're familiar with the contents of the book? Oh yes, dear. I know it inside out. Because I work for the Tangaroa group, you see. We're the company behind Cold Killer X. I'm sure you've heard of it. Cold Killer X fights back sniffles and sneezes with ease, apparently. After Sammy Pooper was found guilty, the company took custody of the book. But they only grabbed their most trusted people access to it, of course. Which means Miss Scone is one of these elites, I suppose. Right, so we've got to present you something, but we've also just got 2 things that could probably be linked. Bound recover the house and the ultimate cookbook for Tangaroa's sake. And the ultimate cookbook contains instructions for creating poisonous gas. The ultimate cookbook contains instructions on how to create the poison gas. And the current owner of that book is none other than Miss Judy Bound. No way, you mean... I'm afraid I do. Miss Bound would have been perfectly capable of setting up the gas trap. Finally, we can prove that she's been lying to us. Well, we're not finished yet, obviously. So what do you want me to present you? Probably this, considering that's what's been mentioned. You had a piece of fabric like this in your bag, did you not, Miss Scone? Albeit a somewhat grimier one. Grimy? How rude! You won't get people to cooperate with your little investigation like that, young man. Shall I call it a dish towel, then? Perhaps you used it to wipe up some sort of spillage. A spillage, he says. The cheek! That's a piece of highly specialized luminous cloth. Oh, I probably shouldn't have told you that. I think I'd like to know a little more about this highly specialized luminous cloth, if you don't mind. Why didn't you want me to know you had a piece of luminous cloth in your bag? Oh, well, I suppose there's no point in hiding it now, is there? You must know I fished it out of the fountain. It was right before they called me into the autumn wing. So Larry's sketch of Miss Scone is of when she tried to retrieve the cloth. At first I thought it was one of the ones I'd given Moody Judy. One of the 4 you'd given to the gallery, correct? Exactly, but all 4 were being used in the autumn wing, weren't they? So I realized it must be the one that went missing all those years ago. I'd already had my infesticide ultra pinched and used to make poison gas. And one of my cloths turned out to have been used as some sort of dastardly deed too. Well, I was going to look guilty as sin, wasn't I? Hidden in my bag, and I hope... So I kept it hidden in my bag and hoped for the best. Oh yes, obfuscating evidence is never making you look guilty as all sin. I see. Oh, it does feel good to get it off my chest, though. Stress is no good for the complexion. So the cloth that disappeared 18 years ago, the one that the victim was wrapped in, just happens to reappear, yeah, not reappeared, in the fountain at the same time as the body. Luminous cloth data updated in my organizer. Oh, there we go. And that's that. All that's left now is to await the results of the test on the teapot. Oh, to be continued right now, eh? We wait for no thing. It'll come right to us. The results are in. April 2nd, 2:33 p.m. The test results have just come in, sir. Traces of ubiquitous were found in the teapot. They were? Just like Mr. Edgeworth said. Curse you! You better not think this means you'll beat me! You really need to drop this obsession with coming in first, Mr. Winner. We're all on the same side here, remember? We're all trying to get to the truth. What? But first is best! Everybody knows it's better to be a winner than a loser! That's really no way for a prosecutor to think. Not a successful one, anyway. But I... Enough. Mr. Edgeworth, please refrain from taunting the boy. Ignore him, Eustace. He isn't worthy of your attention. But Cavell! Oh, all right. Why don't I take care of things here for now? In the meantime, you can perform the far more important task of going and checking on the victim. Oh, yes. Good idea. I'll be right back. Excellent. We shall see you shortly then. Mr. Winner's annoying but totally harmless. Judge Cavell, on the other hand. Now. Miss Bound, perhaps you could explain why traces of ubiquitous were found in your teapot. I had no idea there was anything like that in there. But perhaps it's one of the ingredients in the dishwashing soap I use? So you were telling the court that you did not intentionally put ubiquitous in the teapot? Yes, exactly. Why would I? Until today, I had no idea that it could even be used to make poison gas. Objection! You're a trained actress, are you not, Miss Bound? I'd have thought you would be a more convincing liar. What do you mean? You have access to the Ultimate Cookbook, correct? A book that just so happens to contain instructions on how to create the poison gas used in the attack. Meaning, it's perfectly possible for you to know exactly how to make it. You're very well informed, Mr. Edgeworth. Miss Bound, is what Mr. Edgeworth said true? The book does contain information on how to make the poison gas, yes. But the fact that I have seen it doesn't make me guilty. Can I ask exactly how the gas was triggered? The victim used a blowtorch to heat the lid of one of the display cases, thereby melting the ubiquitous. I see. But he locked himself in the room too, didn't he? Surely that and the fact that he triggered it himself. Wouldn't it point to it being a suicide attempt? So she's not willing to admit to anything. Furthermore, where would I have gotten hold of the Infesticide Ultra? Oh, I don't know. Perhaps you stole it. You know, I did bump into Moody Judy a week or so ago. And that very evening, I noticed my Infesticide Ultra had gone missing. Judy, surely you didn't... Delicia, you carry your bag of pharmaceuticals with you everywhere, don't you? There would have been any number of opportunities for someone other than myself to steal it from you. That's true, and I don't have any hard evidence that it definitely was Miss Bound who stole it. Judes, there's clearly something you're not telling us. Why don't you just come clean, huh? We all know you'd never hurt somebody for no reason, so... Not you too. You think I'm guilty as well, Mr. Fender? Can you blame me? Got one wing disguised as another, the gas trap in one of the display cases. And you're the proprietor of the establishment. It's looking a lot like you did it, kiddo. You've got this all wrong. You have to remember, the gallery doesn't have any security cameras nor any security personnel. If some ill-intentioned person or other wanted to get in undetected, I don't think they'd have much of a problem. Wow, you're practically asking to be burglarized. You need to be more careful. The great thief could have a field day in here. And I don't think she's joking. And actually, it seems that Mr. Gusto did in fact enter the gallery before it opened. Sheesh! Judy's one tough cookie. She's not budging an inch. Maybe it's time to rock a little technique Gregory taught me back in the day. And what technique might that be? So hear me out. Everything's connected to what happened 18 years back, yeah? And since we're not getting anywhere by focusing only on the here and now, maybe we ought to approach this from a different angle and look to the past for clues instead. Turnabout in thinking. So my father used this method as well. Alright, let's run this through the old Thinkatron. How was Jude involved in what happened back then? According to Miss Bound, it was because of her that Mr. Frost's flavoured ice sculptures melted. And yet his sculptures are here on display at this very gallery today. Is it possible that she... Thank you, Fender. I think I know what I need to ask Miss Bound now. Hey, don't thank me. Thank your pops. Now, take it away, Milesy. I'll grab the popcorn. Miss Bound, you say that you were the one who caused Mr. Frost's creations to melt 18 years ago, correct? I'm afraid so. I was young and foolish, and it was a terrible accident. And yet what you did allowed you to open this exhibit, no? What do you mean? Yes, what do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth? If you are going to ask such questions, perhaps a formal testimony from Miss Bound might be best? Yes, perhaps it might. I'd like to know a little more about Zodiac Hall, and about why Miss Bound decided to dedicate this space to Mr. Frost's works. Very well. If you believe it to be relevant to the case, I will allow it. Miss Bound, would you mind? Not at all. I'll do whatever it takes to prove that I'm innocent. Then please, if you could give us some background on Zodiac Hall and the pieces on display here. Zodiac Hall. It took 18 years, but at long last I was finally able to buy Samson's home back a little while ago. But a place like this is expensive to maintain, so I decided to turn it into an art gallery. To that end, I collected as many Paul Helig pieces as I could from around the world. Because, if I'm honest, it's always been something of a dream of mine to open a space dedicated to his work. Thank you for your testimony, Miss Bound. How wonderful it is that you were able to fulfill your dream. Well, Mr. Edgeworth, everything seems entirely above board to me. Judge Cavell, that was simply the witness's preliminary statement. As you surely know, the value of that testimony cannot be evaluated without due cross-examination. Spoken like a true attorney. Very well. You may do what you must. And so we have the rebuttal of the Zodiac Hall testimony. I think we will wait to do this next episode, as we found a lot, and now Judy is looking rather guilty. More to the fact that deflection is now the tactic. She's definitely pointing fingers elsewhere to make sure that no suspicion falls upon her. It's never a good sign when people start to do that. The guilt starts to rise up. Well, with that said and with that done, we end another episode of Ace Investigations 2 Prosecutors Gambit. Join me next time as we cross-examine, press, and find out more about what's really going on here. Is this near the end or not? I do not know. We've got some more rooms to check out, maybe. I'm not even sure. So until next time, I say, bye-bye.